Hi, welcome to Foxy's Little Nuggets, the only news roundup where the politics is grim, the finances are worse, and the buffet table is screaming about a counter-revolution. First up, Andy Burnham. He, of course, has stormed back to Parliament after his thumping Makerfield by-election victory. And Keir Starmer is now discovering that party unity means everyone unites behind Andy Burnham. Burnham won with a majority of 9,231, which is not so much a result as a removal van with a rosette on it. Heading towards number 10, undoubtedly. Starmer insists he is not walking away, but then, like Mandy Rice Davis, he would say that, wouldn't he? He's the sort of man who would remain in a burning building because the minutes of the evacuation meeting had not yet been approved. Burnham says the country needs change. Labour MPs say the country needs change. Harriet Harman has helpfully suggested a process for change. Even the wallpaper in number 10 appears to be quietly briefing against the Prime Minister. And of course, Nigel Farage is saying that reform were hoisted by their own petard because voters backed Burnham in order to get Starmer out. And that's the trouble with petards. Troublesome things. Never trust medieval explosives in a marginal seat. But anyway, we'll move on. So we're going to talk about public finances. They've decided to join the national nervous breakdown as well. The ONS says public sector borrowing hit 23.3 billion in May alone, 5.6 billion higher than the OBR forecast. With just 3 months ago, they said it would be a lot less. Man, they got that one well wrong. It's not fiscal drag, it's fiscal abseiling without a rope. Britain is now borrowing huge sums just to pay the interest on the money it's already borrowed. It's like putting the mortgage payment on a credit card and then applying for a loan to pay the credit card, then calling it stability. And this is the inheritance Burnham will now receive. A treasury where the cupboard is not merely bare, but it's actually been repossessed. Which makes all the talk of new spending, nationalisation, wealth taxes and heroic Manchesterism very slightly tricky. You can't go beyond being in hock to the bond markets while simultaneously asking the bond markets to lend you an extra £50 billion. Thirdly, the BBC has lost another 300,000 licence fee payers and is announcing more cuts. Nowhere near enough. Radio 4's The World Tonight is going. Moneybox Live is going. Midnight News is going. Even Sunday BBC Breakfast is being downgraded to BBC World News, which is news about everywhere except Britain. So nobody will watch that on a Sunday morning. At this rate, the BBC schedule will consist of one weather forecast, 3 podcasts about colonialism, and I'm sure Gary Lineker will be on there somewhere. Nandy says that the BBC must remain adequately funded and independent. Yes, but funded by whom? If people aren't watching it, why should they be forced to pay for it? The BBC says it's adapting to changing viewing habits. It's doing so by chasing the modern audience, but the modern audience don't watch television. They watch their phones. So, the public's viewing habit has changed. It's called We Don't Watch TV Anymore. Fourthly, the SNP government has suffered another court defeat, this time over its prison policy for transgender inmates. And you know what you're thinking? Oh no, not again. They do have a problem with transgenders. Sturgeon famously couldn't call a man because the man insisted that he was a woman, even though he was a man, convicted of a crime which, in Scottish law, can only be perpetrated by a man. And then he was jailed in a woman's prison for a crime that only a man could commit. Yeah, they do have their knickers in a twist. And we all know about Nicola's knickers. You know, the very expensive ones that Murrell bought with the stolen funds. I wonder if they're in a twist. Who knows? But for Women Scotland, the pressure group, they challenged the guidance. They allowed biological males who identify as women to be housed in the female prison estate. And Lady Ross, the judge in the case, ruled the guidance unlawful. Which means the SNP are crying into their porridge tonight. The court said that the European Convention does not create a right to be housed in a prison for the opposite biological sex. That's the sort of legal principle most people could probably have reached with a cup of tea and 5 functioning minutes with half a brain. but not the SNP, of course, because it goes against their dogma, goes against everything they believe. And so they're struggling. It's a sort of, principle that if you're normal, you get it. But the SNP, they're not quite so normal, is it? The Scottish Government took the scenic route, it seems. Ideology, then litigation, then defeat, then a statement, and repeat, ad nauseum. It's not going to end, is it? John Swinney says that Scotland takes sexual violence seriously, which is good. Then perhaps he shouldn't be locking vulnerable women up with men and leaving them overnight in a locked room. And certainly they should not be having to go to court to protect this right of locking men up with women. No wonder they lost. It's unethical. We do have, finally, some very good news, for some at least. 6 years ago, Enfield Council banned meat at official events because apparently local government could not safely operate if it was anywhere near a pork pie. But now the new Tory council leader, Alessandro Giorgio, has decided that it is in the interest of everyone concerned that they reverse this pointless and stupid ban. And so meat is finally back on the menu at Enfield Council. It's common sense, it's normal, it's meh. Why would you take from someone that which does not bother you? If you're a vegan, you can still eat vegan food. Why should you force your beliefs onto other people? There is a word for that, by the way. It's called fascism. But the whole situation is appearing to heal. The buffet table has been liberated. The sandwiches will now have ham in them. And somewhere in England, the flavour has been remembered. Because after a week of leadership coups, of borrowing crises, of BBC cuts and court defeats, not to mention, of course, an England win, but that's a personal thing. Scottish are currently losing as I'm recording this. It is coming to know that civilization can still be measured in one simple phrase, and that is, pass the bacon. But I would suggest that you don't pass it to Ed Miliband. We've all seen what happens when Miliband gets past the bacon. He can't operate a bacon sandwich. He thinks he's going to operate high office. Can't do that either. Let me know what you think. Thanks very much. This is Foxy Little Nuggets, and we're going to move on. Cheers. Bye.